am stunned by the collective voice of Knicks fans. Tommy had it. My good friend Alex B. had it on social. Sal Licata had it. Greg Giannotti had to a T. It's almost like Knicks fans had a meeting last night and said, here's what we're going to say. And what we're going to say is, hey, I'm encouraged. What? What could you possibly be encouraged or even discouraged by? You lost to the Celtics. Jaylen Brown didn't play in the fourth quarter. You didn't win. You didn't really lose anything. Nothing happened.
Nothing mattered. Tommy, did you have a Luke hour yesterday?
I did.
Did you set people up to be encouraged no matter what happens as long as it's a close game?
Not on the Luke hour, but on the tail end of our show yesterday, I did.
Are you?
Well, there you go. Tommy's the voice of the Knicks fan. And that's what's happening.
And he is, because everyone is, again, like they had a meeting last night collectively to say, hey, that was encouraging. I feel good. We proved we can hang. And I just don't see it.
I think it's a hangover from last year. So last year, when the Knicks were really good, they were gritty, they were tough, even though they sustained a ton of injuries down the stretch and into the postseason, they were finding ways to be really competitive. Mm-hmm. And it was like, oh, man, if we just get our best effort against some of these teams that are supposed to beat us, a la the Boston Celtics, then we have a chance to beat them come the postseason, right? It happened in the regular season. Yeah. Remember this? The Celtics were actually trying to win this game. I think it feels the same for the Knicks this year, even though the circumstances are vastly different this year than they were from a year ago.
Watching last night's game, because I did watch it, and it was fun to watch because it was a really competitive basketball game, and there were a lot of little things that we can break down. There were actually more things that would worry me if I'm a New York Knicks fan. And I'll tell you where it starts, and I'll tell you where it ends. The head coach. Tom Thibodeau, to win a best-of-7 series against the Boston Celtics, is going to have to be perfect. He's going to have to be perfect because the Celtics are an incredibly talented team. They are a well-oiled machine. Even without Jaylen Brown in the fourth quarter of this game, they are so prepared. They are so fundamentally sound. They are so smart. They don't let little things, little tiny things cost them. And if the Knicks are going to beat the Celtics in a best-of-7 series, they're going to have to do everything perfect. And there were 4 things last night that concern me. And I'm going to start with number 1. That may surprise you what number 1 is. Josh Hart can't be on the floor on the final possession. And then he is on the final floor in the final possession, and he's taking the final shot.
Yeah.
It makes no sense. Deuce McBride needs to be on the floor. Deuce McBride needs to be on the floor more. And so when we all wonder, can the Knicks beat the Celtics? Talent-wise, they're not as good, but coaching-wise, they're not as good. Because Tom Thibodeau continues to not make the simple adjustments that he's going to need to make in a best-of-7 series against Boston. And Josh Hart being on the floor and taking that final shot, inexcusable.
Well, if it's the right shot, you kind of have to trust the guy. The problem is he hasn't been shooting well, and he hasn't been as confident shooting the three-pointer as he was a year ago. I think the Tom Thibodeau that we see is a Tom Thibodeau that trusts his players. He trusts his stars. He trusts those guys that he's giving 40-plus minutes to every night. And in a critical moment, you can't do anything but trust the guy that you've spent so many times, so many days and moments trusting. That's what that comes down to. Now, is it smart all the time? Of course not. You're actually right. But can you tell somebody
Actually right.
Yeah. No, you are actually probably right. But whatever.
Right.
Let's say you're right.
Right.
You can't change Tom Thibodeau from being Tom Thibodeau.
Then you're not beating the Celtics.
He's just not going to trust someone who he has a little less faith in for whatever reason.
If he doesn't trust Deuce McBride playing big minutes against the Celtics, you're not beating him. Like, there are going to be a lot of things that have to happen. See, here's where I'll be positive with Knicks fans. I'm not a believer that you just give up and say you can't beat this team. I'm laying out the law, which is things are going to have to be perfect. You're going to have to do a lot of really smart things, and your head coach is going to have to step up his game. And one of those things is going to have to be trusting Deuce McBride. One of those things is going to be not having Josh Hart on the floor in the final few seconds of the game. And then when you talk about trusting your own players, we're all going to talk about OG not fouling up 3. Mm-hmm. How about Karl Anthony Towns fouling Jason Tatum on a 3-point shot? Yeah. And you got lucky that he missed the 3rd free throw. That crap can't happen.
Right.
They have to be smarter than that. So, again, I want to make it clear because I'm kind of towing the line here. I think losing last night's game is not that big of a deal. I've made it clear. But if we're looking for signs, if that's the game we're going to play on April 9th because the playoffs haven't started yet, and we're going to say, oh, I feel good or I feel bad, I'd feel bad because those little things cannot happen. And yes, OG fouling up 3. Look, for a long time as a basketball fan, I hated fouling up 3. You can go on social media, you'll find a million of them. I hate fouling up 3, I hate fouling up 3, I hate fouling up 3. And then the sport changed. So I changed. You have to foul up 3. And OG Anunoby has to know, get your arms around him before he gets a shot off.
Yes.
Don't be afraid that he's going to get one off. And make the Celtics have to do something wacky to beat you. Those little things will cost you, and it cost them last night. You do those things smartly, you win.
Yeah, I think the other thing with Tibbs, in that regard, is that he's not communicating those things. Right? It's funny because this came up in one of the NCAA tournament games. They were up 2 or 3. They were up 3, and the other team was inbounding. Just foul him. Right? Don't give him a chance to take a half-court shot that might go in. Just foul him. Make him take 2 shots and then really have to get creative on the opposing inbound. If you miss or make it, doesn't matter. The same thing occurs in the NBA. If you're up 3, foul the other team, right? And so the challenge with coaching in real time is that you assume, and again, this comes back to trust, that your guys on the court, these guys that you are trusting, know what to do in those situations.
OG should know.
Of course he should know, but it never hurts to tell him again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, I guess
it's like the defensive lineman who, on 4th and inch, whatever it is, and they're getting dummied, stay on sides. Don't jump. Inevitably, one guy gets fooled by the hard count and jumps off sides. It's the same thing with this Knicks basketball team, and it's not faulting anybody. It's just you have to, as a coach, when you have a veteran team, put trust in those guys to do the right thing in the right moments, and sometimes they don't, and that's where the Knicks fell short last night. Not that, again, you're right, Evan. It doesn't matter.
It's not.
The game doesn't mean that much.
It's not last night. It's not losing. It's in general. And I think I will speak to many Knicks fans who will agree with this statement. I don't trust Tom Thibodeau in a big spot. I don't trust Tom Thibodeau, and I'll get more specific. I don't trust Tom Thibodeau in a series in which he needs to outcoach the opposing head coach. And in a series against Boston, assuming there aren't catastrophic injuries, and by the way, there could be. Jaylen Brown's dealing with a bad knee right now. There's no doubt that Jaylen Brown being compromised lowers the difference between the Knicks and the Celtics. I think Boston can still beat you, but there's no doubt it lowers the difference in talent between the Knicks and the Celtics. Kristaps Porzingis has been a walking injury his entire NBA career. So by the time we get to Knicks Celtics, the face of this series can look very different. I'd be the first to acknowledge it. But ultimately, you're going to need to be perfect to beat the Celtics. Not once, not keep it close where we can raise a banner and say we proved we can hang. No, beat them 4 out of 7. That's the goal. And to do that, in my opinion, you need Tom Thibodeau to outcoach Joe Mazzulla. And I look at Tom Thibodeau's playoff history, and I see 5 series in which they've been the underdog. The team that's going on the road, the team with the higher seed or lower seed, however you want to define it. And he's only won 2 of those series. One was against the gutless Brooklyn Nets led by Darren Williams and Brook Lopez and Joe Johnson in 2013. Tron and I will agree that doesn't even count.
That was a decade plus ago.
Exactly. That's example number 1, and none of us count it because that net team was disgusting. The second example was actually Cleveland a couple of years ago, and I think we'd all agree that Cleveland was learning. Can Tom Thibodeau outcoach Joe Mazzulla? Can Tom Thibodeau lead the Knicks past an ultra-talented team like the Boston Celtics? If you're looking for signs on a Tuesday night regular season game, your answer last night was absolutely not. With that said, Tommy represents a lot of Knicks fans who want to raise a banner for last night and say, hey, we proved we can hang. What am I missing?
Well, you missed one other thing there that I will criticize, and that is, and it made the rounds, obviously, it was viral on social media. Karl Anthony Towns cannot pass the ball in that spot at the end of the game. At the end of
You're not going to blame Mikal Bridges?
No. How about Karl Anthony Towns takes the ball to the basket instead of passing the ball in the corner to Bridges? And Cat played great. It was probably arguably his best game as a Knick. In that spot, be aggressive, take KP off the dribble, and get your shot off. And if not, then kick it to somebody open. Don't immediately catch it and then look to pass it.
Yeah, you can't pass it to Mikal Bridges. You can't trust him to hold on to a basketball with 8 seconds to go.
I would foul up 3 for sure. I would have Hart on the floor, but maybe have him as the inbounder. I don't want him taking the last shot, not when you have those type of talent. on the floor. But
Yo, what are you encouraged by? That's all I'm
the
asking.
challenge with Josh is you don't know if he wants to take the shot.
well, he just shouldn't be taking that shot.
He should be on the floor.
When you have Brunson, when you have Kat, when you have Bridges, when you have Anunoby, who's been playing out of his mind, he just shouldn't be
Or even
catching
if
the ball.
Deuce McBride is out there, like.
But even Deuce, when you have Jaylen Brown and you have Jalen Brunson.
No, I'm
you have
merely
Kat.
saying that I'd rather have him take that shot than Josh. Josh Hart should not have been on the floor in the final few seconds, but all that's proving is what I'm getting at. You're one of the many Knicks fans who said you felt encouraged by last night. What am I missing?
Yeah, what exactly are you
Because
encouraged by?
So far, all you've done is agree with me.
because I'm bringing up the fact that they didn't execute at the end of the game, but they hung with the Celtics. I don't care if Brown only played 22 minutes. That's nothing to me. How about when the Celtics blew us out and we didn't have players on the floor? So there hasn't really been one game all year where both sides have been fully healthy. So if you don't want to play a player or you're laying your sword down because he's got a bum knee, that's not my problem. Whoever's on the floor is on the floor. They stayed with him to the end of the game. They should have won the game. If they fouled up 3, they likely would have won the game. So I take encouragement from that. In these last couple games against elite teams, I at least want to see them hang with them. I said that about the Cavs game. I'll say it about the upcoming Cavs game. And I'll say it about last night. They didn't get their doors blown off by the Celtics. They hung in the game. And if they had executed down the stretch in OT and at the end of the game, they would have won.
That was the most discouraging defense I've ever heard. I'm actually depressed for you. That's your defense? Well, we didn't get blown out.
Okay.
I mean, bro,
So,
the Celtics are going through the motions. They've got 3 games left in the season.
now they're going through the motions.
They don't care. You think they cared about last night?
So if we get blown out by 50, what's the narrative, Teak? That the Knicks can't hang with them. They get blown out by elite
that's been the narrative
teams.
all year long, has it not been?
Right.
Whether
So when
it's
they
Cleveland, whether it's OKC, whether it's the Celtics, they get blown out. So one outlier to what you've seen all season long is now encouraging, I think, to Knicks fans. And I think because of what happened at the end of last season, where you played tight against the Celtics and you felt like, man, this Knicks team, if they just can find some health and get it all together, even if they don't have health, they're so gritty. And this team, by the way, doesn't feel as gritty as that team a year ago. But nonetheless, if they can get it figured out at the right time, then anybody can make a run. The challenge in basketball, though, is that that's not necessarily true. Right? It sounds good. You can say it in football. You can say it in NCAA basketball. You can't say it in the NBA. The best team, who is the deeper team, the better coach team, generally finds ways to come through, especially in 5
And here's the
7-game
problem.
series.
Here's the problem I'm running into. They're not as talented as Boston, and they're not as well coached. So I don't know. Like, hey, you never know. Things can change, obviously. Best of 7 series. Maybe Porzingis is hurt. Things can change. Things are wild. Things are crazy. Maybe somebody gets upset. Who the hell knows? But I don't know. And you didn't answer it. Maybe you can find it at some point. You didn't answer why anything from last night would have changed how you felt about this. Because they kept the game close in the NBA?
What do you mean?
That encouraged you?
Against a team that has blown them out all season long, and they were right there at the end. If they executed, they would have won a game. How many people went into last night thinking the Celtics would sweep the Knicks in the playoffs? Now coming off that game, you can't feel that way.
Come on, bro.
What do you
This
mean?
is sad.
How is it sad?
What would have happened if the Knicks had won last night? Would you have been ecstatic? Would you have been like, what was
I would have said
the reaction?
they proved they can beat the Celtics. And if they got blown out by 50, I would have said it's sobering, this sucks, and they have not proven once this season that they can hang with any of the elite teams.
You used the word sobering. And again, last night's game, end of the day, what the hell does it really mean? I think last night was probably more sobering than the blowouts because you had them. You had them beat. And Jaylen Brown wasn't on the floor. And you had him beat. And you still didn't beat him. And there were all these little things we're talking about that contributed to that. So I would use your word sobering to describe last night more than any other
But
night.
it's a learning experience. No, I'm serious.
Are you a kindergarten teacher?
I'll tie it into Duke this year. Duke didn't play any close games. When they got a close game in Houston, they basically wet themselves. They had no idea what to do. The Knicks needed to play a close game against the Celtics to figure out how to beat them. Didn't happen last night. I could use that as the mulligan, so when it happens in the playoffs and they get in a tight game, they'll foul up 3. They'll execute better. Cat could take the ball aggressively.
Right now.
Learn how to beat them. Sometimes you have to get this close, and then you learn how to win.
Right now, on April 9th at 2:16 p.m., you're done with the Celtics. You've played your regular seasons against them. We're entering the postseason in 2 short weeks. I can't wait. We're all very, very excited to it finally start. Actually, less than 2 weeks. It's a week and a half. It's going to start over next weekend.
Right.
If the Knicks and Celtics are lucky enough to face each other in an Eastern Conference semifinals, right now on April 9th, Tommy Lugauer. How will that series go?
Celtics in 6.
Okay, Celtics in 6. Okay, thank you very much. We'll come back and get to your phone calls. 888-808-1019. Plus, I thought it was really interesting to hear what the Celtics had to say after last night's close victory over the New York Knicks. We'll get to that. We got a lot of football to get to. We'll keep you posted on the Mets and the Yankees. We'll recap their games as soon as they're done. So a very, very busy afternoon with the newly crowned 50-year-old back in the building, Tiki Barber, on another new edition of Evan and Tiki. The toll-free number is 888-808-1019.